Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's watching. So it is a very good pleasure to start the series of dialogue talking about flipping the script from potential to prosperity. And now, before we start, let me show you a video to demonstrate what we mean when we talk about flipping the script. Please. So today I'm very happy to be joined here by the permanent representative of the Government of Ireland to the United Nations in New York, Ambassador Fergal Mythen, who is also very important, is carrying a very important task this year, is one of the two co-facilitators for the SDG Summit that will take place in New York this September. So welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you today. And my first question would be, we are in Doha today discussing the least developed countries and how we can flip the script and turn their potential to prosperity. And we are on our way towards New York, where in September there will be a very important summit on the midpoint from when the agenda was agreed in 2015 until the deadline of 2030. So we want to hear from you, from your very important role you are playing. What could be some action that can really bring about the catalytic change we need to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals?
Thank you very much, Marina, and it's very, very good to be here. As you say, I'm the Irish ambassador to the UN. And we've been asked to take on the role of co-facilitating the work of preparing the summit and preparing the political declaration for the summit, myself and the Qatari ambassador, Ambassador Al Thani. It's a big responsibility, it's a big honour, but it's also a very big opportunity. And I think that video there showed the real importance of hope at the moment. We are in a difficult moment, globally, geopolitically, in terms of food insecurity, famine, climate change, governance. There's a lot of challenges. But hopelessness and despondency is not a policy. Hope is a policy. And that's why we really feel inspired by Flip the Script. I think it's a really important message. We are in a bad way in terms of implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. If we reflect back, and I was speaking with some people who are here today who were in the room in 2015 when the world came together as one to agree to Sustainable Development Goals. And they spoke about the excitement and the euphoria and the sense of elation that the world could come together and agree such ambitious goals. But they always knew, even at that moment of elation and hope, that implementation would be difficult, even in the most optimistic of circumstances. What we've had in the last few years has not been the most optimistic of circumstances. It's been really difficult circumstances, not least the pandemic, but other issues too and other challenges. So I think what we're really trying to work with all the UN member states and with civil society and with the private sector is to almost reclaim the spirit of 2015. not just in one SDG or two or three, but across all the board, across all 17. So what we're looking for is almost a renewal of vows from the heads of state and government, renewal of vows to the SDGs to say, actually, yes, they are ambitious, but they're the right agenda, they're the right challenges, and they're the right plan of action for the next 7 years. So what we're looking for is that renewal of commitment, but also a commitment to much better coordination, a move away from silos. I mean, the genius of 2015 was that these 17 goals were not siloed. That, you know, if you need equality for all, you need access to education for all, you need access to clean water for all, you need good governance and peace and justice for all. And actually, we all rise or fall together. And that was the genius. So what we need from the heads of state and government is that commitment to actually step away from silos and just really improve the coordination and really commit to implementation for the next 7 years. It's too easy to say the challenge is too great, there's nothing we can do. That's a cop-out, in my view. It's a real cop-out. What we need to say is actually, this is the right agenda. It was right in 2015, it's right now. Now let's get on and work together to really achieve that.
Thank you, thank you. What you said is very important. Particularly, I fully agree when you say that it's a moment to recommit to what we call in our campaign the revolutionary ideas of the SDGs. You mentioned them all. The first is about the universality. Yes. So this is an agenda for everyone, for all the sector, for all the government, for everyone. Mm-hmm. And the second point is very important, when you talk about the interconnectivity. So we cannot achieve gender equality without achieving also climate. We cannot really achieve jobs without looking at some of the macroeconomic issues and challenges. We really need to look at the agenda as an holistic way. And the third point is about boldness. This agenda, and actually Ireland was also a co-facilitator at the time of when the agenda was drafted and agreed, is a very bold agenda that calls for transformation and really calls for addressing some of the root causes. So it's very good to hear that in September we will bring the same energy, the same spirit, and maybe we can also add this kind of optimistic. We've seen it with COVID. Change can happen, and can happen also very quickly when there is a vision and when there is a sense of urgency, which hopefully this process can bring forward. And now a second question for you. What was very important in 2015 was the emphasis of leaving no one behind. So I know this is very close and very dear for Ireland, but can you just mention to us why, what do you mean by leaving no one behind, and how we can recapture this concept now going towards September?
Yeah, I think the concept of leaving no one behind was really revolutionary almost in 2015. It wasn't really there for the Millennium Development Goals, or certainly wasn't there at its core, but it was in 2015, and it is now in the Sustainable Development Goals. And it means leaving no one behind in every part of the world. It doesn't just mean leaving no girls and women behind in Afghanistan or Iran, and we can take the really hard cases, but also means in Irish society leaving no one behind. It's incumbent on all of us, all 193 member states, to commit to leaving no one behind in our societies and globally. And that's why for us, my own government we're undertaking our second voluntary review in July. It's why we've released our Sustainable Development Goals plan. And it's as much about domestic as it is global, international. I think that's really important. So it's for all of us, every member state, north, south, east or west, least developed, developing, developed, to recommit to implementing the goals for all. And it stands to reason. It's not good enough that we improve our economic indicators, or we improve education, but not for all. That's not a win. That's not sustainable. And I think there are two really important words. I was speaking to some colleagues from Africa, and they were really stressing, look, to Sustainable Development Goals is about sustainability and development. And that's important for all. It's really revolutionary, really important, and without that, it wouldn't be half as transformative as it is as an agenda. It's really, really important. I would like to recall the work of my predecessor, David Donoghue,
Yes.
who co-facilitated the SDGs preparations and the 2030 Agenda in 2015. And again, I've spoken to him and in preparing for this role, and he just really spoke about the transformational nature of the vision of 2015. And I think we really need to hold on to that. Some of you may know I spent a lot of my career working on the Northern Ireland peace process. And you might think, what's that got to do with Sustainable Development Goals? But even during difficult moments when we thought this is not working, we always had what we said was a duty of hope. A duty of hope to keep going even in difficult moments, even when implementation looks unrealistic. And I think we need the same duty of hope in this space. To not give up, to not say this is too great, to challenges of implementation are too hard. Implementation is always hard. It's always difficult. But we have a duty of hope to keep going and to come out in September with that renewed vigour and energy and urgency. So that doesn't mean that we're not realistic about the challenges. And recently we had the report of the scientific community set out in the Global Sustainable Development Report, which the first half was very, very stark, really stark about how far we're away from full implementation. But it wasn't just that. The second half was charting a pathway to implementation, charting a hopeful way forward. So myself and Ambassador Al-Thani want to work with all member states in the next few months with a sense of realism and hard-headedness, drawing on science, drawing on data, drawing on the empirical evidence to really say, okay, everyone says we're off track. How are we off track? Where is the science? Where's the facts? And then coupled with that, inject a sense of urgency and a sense of hope. So realism, urgency and hope driving forward, working with all member states and with stakeholders, civil society, over the next few months to get back on track. That was the genius of the process in 2015. It wasn't just government-led, it wasn't just member states, it was stakeholder, it was private sector, it was the scientific community, and it's recapturing that same dynamic again this time. That's what we're looking for to drive us on and drive it forward into a more positive space.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with your three priority, and also you mentioned something very important, that the agenda, although was agreed and negotiated by member state, it was at the end of a very long consultative process where private sector was involved, civil society, young people. So the agenda really reflects not just the member state priority, but also the aspiration, the hopes, and the priority of people. And I think that it's now very important going towards the summit to recreate that atmosphere and that engagement. So we are also, as a campaign, reaching out to local government, to the creative community, to young people, to civil society, to the private sector, to the media, to really help us promote and create the momentum so that then the vision that you highlighted can become a reality. And maybe I have a last question. I mean, we believe that in times of crisis, it's about also the creativity of finding solution. And the human nature, we are very creative, particularly when we're confronted with challenges. So at times of difficulties, as you were saying, if you look at the data doesn't draw a very positive picture, but at the same time is in front of those challenges that creativity can help us shape solution. So if you have a last message for our audience watching us from all over the world and ready to join you and to support you to make the SDG Summit a success, which is a last message that you want to send them?
Okay, well, I'm going to answer your one question with three responses. Firstly, I just come back to leaving no one behind. I'm very conscious we're here at the conference on the least developed countries, and the UN Secretary General said this morning that for least developed countries, the SDGs are about survival. So there's a direct line between what we're doing here in Doha leading towards the summit in September. So, while all of us, all member states have challenges, I think we really need to be conscious of what the SDGs mean for least developed countries and billions of people. So that's really, really important. And we need the same energy and creativity we have here, driving us forward to September. Secondly, I think I really want to reflect on the beautiful simplicity of the SDGs. 17 goals, such simple language. And for those of you who know the UN system, the simplicity of what we see here, good health and well-being, climate action, life below water, quality work, quality education. This is the simplicity of vision that the UN maybe sometimes lacks. And it's really important that we hold on to that. Now, I know there's 189 indicators and targets, but that simplicity is really accessible. And I was speaking to a group of student teachers in Ireland during the week in Marino Institute, and they're going to be teaching young children. They're going to bring in the Sustainable Development Goals into the work they do in the classroom. And that's really important because it's not just government-led or officials or politicians, but it's also about future generations. And the simplicity and the wonderful branding that we see here of the SDGs is something we need to hold on to, even as we deal with very complex issues. The final point, creativity. I think when we reflect on our moments of crisis, now I first started working in this field in the early 90s, and the big question then, and the big challenge was the ozone layer, and the severe impact that would have on our society. What was the response? The response was phenomenal. It was governmental, it was scientific, it was creative, and now that problem has been effectively resolved. So that shows what can be done. You spoke about the pandemic, and across the world, governments opened the coffers, governments took measures that were said to be unthinkable and impossible only 2 weeks previously. It was an extraordinary outpouring of governmental ambition, risk-taking, and creativity and ambition. And I know that's not always easy, but it shows it can be done. So there's two examples when faced with real problems, we were able to respond with creativity, ingenuity. I think we have to harness that, and we show we can do it, and we have it within our ability to unlock that creativity. But it can't, as I said, just be governmental driven or civil servant driven or official driven. It needs private sector, it needs civil society, it needs the scientific community, it needs the artistic and creative community, and it needs organisations like yourselves bringing the SDGs into people's homes. So it's not just a sterile debate in a big meeting room in New York, but it's something that's living for every government department, and for every country. It's real, it's the challenges of our time. No one disputes that these are not the challenge. These are the challenges that we're all facing, north, south, or east and west. So we have that agenda. It's a platform for action. It's a platform for urgency. If we work together, I've no doubt we can do it. I've no doubt we can do it. But we must have that hope and that urgency, and let's drive it forward. Let's do it.
Thank you, Fergal. It's very encouraging to hear your passion, your drive, and also your optimism. We will be supporting, and also people watching will be following the SDG Summit. And I want to end just with your point about joining forces, being together, because together we're stronger. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Marina.
Thank you.